Welcome back, everyone. Have you ever walked away from a conversation, maybe a heated discussion with a friend, a partner, or a colleague, and felt like the two of you were existing in completely separate realities? You laid out your points logically, they laid out theirs, and yet, instead of reaching an understanding, you both just dug your heels in deeper. It is an incredibly frustrating experience, and it happens to all of us. But the reason it happens is something we rarely talk about, and it points to a massive, glaring blind spot in how we are raised and educated. Think about the standard curriculum we all go through. We spend well over a decade in school. We are taught complex calculus, the dates of ancient historical battles, the periodic table of elements, and the intricate rules of grammar. We are handed endless instruction manuals for understanding the external world. Yet almost no time is dedicated to the single most important tool we possess, the human mind itself. Specifically, we are never taught about cognitive biases. We are sent out into the world to make massive life decisions, build relationships, and engage in civic discourse without ever being warned about the invisible filters and glitches operating inside our own brains. To really understand how much this missing education impacts us, let us dive into one of the most powerful and pervasive glitches of all, confirmation bias. In its simplest terms, confirmation bias is our brain's tendency to automatically seek out, favor, and remember information that validates what we already believe. At the exact same time, it acts as a shield, aggressively deflecting or ignoring any evidence that contradicts our pre-existing worldview. Imagine your mind has a highly aggressive bouncer standing at the front door. Whenever a piece of information approaches that matches your current beliefs, the bouncer unclips the velvet rope and says, "Come on in, you're on the VIP list." But the moment a piece of contradictory data shows up, no matter how factual or well-researched it might be, that bouncer throws it out onto the street. Our brains do this because processing new, contradictory information takes a tremendous amount of cognitive energy. It is physically and psychologically uncomfortable to admit we might be wrong. It forces us to dismantle our mental frameworks and rebuild them. So, out of sheer laziness and a desire for psychological safety, our brains take the path of least resistance. We curate our environments, our news feeds, and our social circles to echo our own voices back to us. Now take that internal mechanism and put it into a social context. What happens when two people, both operating under heavy, unexamined confirmation bias, enter into a disagreement? The communication does not just stumble, it completely breaks down. When we step into a disagreement, most of us are operating under a deeply flawed premise. We enter the conversation trying to win. We view dialogue as a zero-sum game, a battleground where one person must conquer and the other must submit. We stockpile our arguments like ammunition, waiting for the other person to take a breath so we can fire off our next talking point. But here is the devastating truth about that approach. When your primary goal is to win, you are entirely ignoring the other person's baseline assumptions. You are arguing about the leaves on a tree without ever looking at the roots. Every single person builds their worldview on a foundation of baseline assumptions, core beliefs about human nature, fairness, safety, and value, forged by their unique life experiences. If you do not actively try to understand the baseline assumptions the other person is operating from, you are not actually having a conversation with them. You are just talking to a phantom of your own creation. You are speaking two different languages loudly in the same room. And this brings us back to that massive failure in our educational system. We are explicitly taught how to debate. Think about high school debate clubs or college courses on rhetoric. We are trained to deconstruct an opponent's argument, to look for logical fallacies, to deliver a crushing rebuttal, and to persuade an audience. We gamify conflict. We reward rhetorical takedowns. But where is the class on listening? Where is the club dedicated to the art of active, empathetic comprehension? We are almost never taught that listening is a highly sophisticated, active skill. True listening requires a suspension of the ego. It requires you to silence that internal lawyer who is desperately trying to draft a counter-argument while the other person is still speaking. It requires the courage to say, "Help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion," instead of immediately telling them why they are wrong. Until we begin to study our own biases, until we recognize the bouncer at the door of our minds, and until we shift our conversational goals from winning to understanding, we will continue to talk past one another. The real victory in any conversation is not walking away having proven you were right. The real victory is walking away with a deeper, more accurate map of another human being's reality. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention today. I truly appreciate you joining me for this deep dive. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this with someone you think might find it valuable. Take care of yourselves, keep questioning your own assumptions, and I will see you in the next one.